If there's one word that points out the difference between a happy marriage and an unhappy marriage, it is planning. You know, happy, successful couples plan to go to church this Sunday. They plan to give each other a meaningful hug, meaningful kiss today. They plan, how are we going to connect tonight? When are we going to turn off the technology and look each other in the eyes and just talk?
Welcome to the Focus on the Family broadcast, helping families thrive.
John, I think everyone wants a happy marriage. I hope that. And there may be some listening or viewing that their marriages are at a place where it's not about that. It's just a matter of being together and sticking together. And we're going to cover some great material today that's going to give you the handles to do better in your marriage. If you're in a serious situation, please call us, and John will give those details. This is going to be that kind of tune-up program for marriages that might be struggling a bit, but they're on the right general path. But again, if you're in a much more difficult place, give us a call and we can help you there. We are going to cover some great content. You know, the Bible recommends a different path to happiness than what I think we in the Western world think about when it comes to happiness. Proverbs 4:5 says, get wisdom. Get insight. And Proverbs 19:8 says, he who gets wisdom loves himself. In other words, if you want to enjoy life and have a shalom, a peaceful life, find practical knowledge for living. I think it all starts with our marriages. I mean, you want peace in your life, have a peaceful marriage, and everything else kind of cascades from there. So I'm looking forward to our program.
Right, and Dr. Randy Schrader has been here before. He's a pastor, a former seminary professor, and a marriage and family counselor. He and his wife, Jenny, have been married for over 45 years, and they have 2 children and 6 grandchildren, and he's written a number of books. The one we'll talk about today is called Simple Habits for Marital Happiness, Practical Skills and Tools that Build a Strong, Satisfying Relationship. Contact the ministry today for your copy of that book. Our number is 800, the letter A, and the word family, or click the link in the show notes.
Dr. Randy, it's great to have you back.
Well, it's great to be back, and I look forward to providing simple yet very effective habits for couples to improve and strengthen their marriage.
I love what you've said on earlier programs that we've done. You've written a book for parenting and a book on marital happiness here that we're going to talk about again today. We did a previous program on this, but we're going to cover some of the other information here. But you basically said you structured these books as a counselor would engage with a client, and that people can read these books and they're going to get all the information that you would have spent thousands of dollars on in your counseling settings. And I'm so excited when we get a really good resource like this that is so sound fundamentally. Okay, for the skeptic, the person out there going, it's not about happiness, it's about joy. And it's true. I mean, being a Christian, you want a joyful life, but happiness counts too. So just hit that for the purists that are listening, that Dr. Randy, life is about joy, not about happiness.
Well, no marriage is consistently happy, or is happy every day, I should say. Consistent marriage satisfaction is the goal. You know, we can have ups and downs, and yet through habits, couples can have a strong, satisfying relationship. 80% of our behaviors are habits.
Yeah.
And couples that have a successful, happy marriage have a gratifying relationship because they have daily, healthy habits. They share loving words, loving actions every single day, and that keeps that relationship consistently happy.
Well, I think we have laid the groundwork. Let's get into the 4 daily essentials. These are things, that, again, you mentioned early in the book for couples. Take us through the first 2 of those 4 essentials.
Well, the 4 daily essential habits are essential. They need to happen. And what I have seen in troubled relationships, couples stop saying I love you. And in fact, complacency is the dreaded disease that can really damage a marriage relationship. They become complacent and they don't say I love you every day. So the first daily essential habit is whenever a spouse leaves the home, they need to say goodbye, I love you. Doesn't make any difference if they're going to work, they're going to the grocery store, they're going to the hardware store. They say goodbye, I love you, and then the other spouse needs to return or gets to return. It's not a need to, it's a get to. It's a privilege. I love you. Have a good day, or drive careful wherever you're going. And there's a practical rhyme. I will never leave the house without hugging and kissing my spouse and saying I love you.
Okay.
And so that's the first essential. The second one is good night, I love you. A lot of couples don't go to bed at the same time, or if they do, one will roll over first to go to sleep. Every night, whoever goes to sleep first will say good night, I love you. And then the spouse can return, good night, I love you. And so there's 4 I love yous every day, which overcomes that dreaded disease, or part of it, of complacency.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. The third one is really about habits and developing those good habits. And you say the first 5 minutes of the day, number 3 comes into play. I'm keeping your rhyming going, but hit it.
Good job. Good job.
What's number
Jim.
3?
We're rhyming all over the place. Yeah, so the first 5 minutes of the day set the tone for the day, not only for an attitude, but also for a marriage relationship. And so couples need to avoid the C's. I stress that to parents. I stress that to couples, the correcting, criticizing, complaining, condemning. I've heard thousands of spouses say, I wake up and the first thing I hear is, you forgot to put your coffee cup in the dishwasher last night. It's a criticism. And so the first 5 minutes, a spouse doesn't have to be bubbly joyful, but they need to avoid the C's so they begin the day positively. That is a habit that needs to be in place.
We're going to go a little deeper with each of these. So for people going, I want to hear more about that, we will in a minute. So hang on. Habit 4 is how you end the day with your spouse, other than I love you. You call it the 2 within 20.
Yes, sir. It's spending 2 minutes together within the first 20 minutes that the last spouse arrives home after work or whatever. And so it doesn't, some spouses like to unwind. They like to go change their clothes, check the mail, do that. So it doesn't have to be immediate. But at some point in those 20 minutes, they need to reconnect emotionally. They need to make that eye-to-eye heart connection. The eyes are windows to the heart. Couples forget that. They need to look in each other's eyes, spend 2 minutes checking how the day went for both of them, and giving a meaningful hug and kiss. That is a daily essential habit, is to give a 10-second hug, 10-second kiss every day. Talked about that in the last program, and a meaningful hug and kiss happens in those 2 minutes within the first 20 minutes.
That seems pretty reasonable, 2 minutes. I mean,
Yes,
to
sir.
invest in your marriage. So,
Yes, sir.
But I'm guilty. I don't do that every day. I do it some days, and probably need to do it more days. So I like this.
You
This
and
is a
I
good
are alike.
reminder.
All spouses are imperfect. Even though I'm a marriage expert, I don't do it perfectly either, Jim.
Isn't that the truth? Complimenting your spouse is powerful. I think we know that. Sometimes, I think we get a little wounded, so we pull back on that, I would say. It doesn't have to be a severe wound, but maybe just a little nick. And then we don't want to compliment you for the next 24 hours. Not that I've given a lot of thought to
You've
this.
got a friend who does this. Yeah, a friend.
But I guess many couples kind of lose that art, if I could call it that. What causes couples to stop appreciating one another?
It is that complacency, and just they stop being a good finder. They say
A good finder.
yes, sir.
I like that.
They're not good finders. It's too easy to slip due to our sinful nature and become fault finders. And so couples need to compliment each other every single day. And I think it's good. I always define gratitude as saying thank you. It's good to say, healthier, I would say, to say I appreciate. That lifts the spouse up, and that is praise. Praise creates positive energy in a marriage. And it's interesting to me, every counseling session, I've done thousands and thousands of counseling sessions with couples. Every session I begin with a couple, I have them appreciate each other. And it's amazing to me how difficult that is for spouses. Now, I'm seeing troubled marriages, or marriages that are struggling and want to get stronger. Yet, for a husband to tell his wife, I appreciate, and then I ask the wife, will you please always say thank you for the compliment? And then, husband, will you please say you're welcome after you give the compliment? And those 3 niceties are tough. It just doesn't happen. It's just unbelievable.
Tell us about your even odd rule. What is that? This is another practical one.
That is a biggie. I see so many marriages that one spouse says, my spouse is complaining about all our life issues. Every person on the face of this earth has different issues going on. Now, it could be something like the brakes on the car need to be changed, okay? And who's going to take the car to the shop to get the brakes changed? But couples can have 50% of their life positive by not talking about problems on even dates. When I think of the word even, I think of smooth, calm, tranquil. And so on even dates, they avoid problem talk, because some spouses have the tendency just to complain about everything every day. So there can be no complaints. It just has to be positive. And then on the odd dates, since odd is kind of the abnormal, couples can talk about and kind of complain about work and complain about life issues, and they should only last for 30 minutes, at the most an hour. So the rest of the evening together is positive. It's coffee, casual conversation. When I see, and I unfortunately have seen numerous cases of adultery, the betrayed spouse wants to talk about the affair every day. And rather than help the marriage get on the road to healing, and I've helped numerous marriages get over affairs and have successful, happy marriages, they just don't want to talk about that adultery every day. They do it every other day on the odd dates.
This is Focus on the Family with Jim Daly, and our guest today is Dr. Randy Schrader, offering very biblical insights in his book, Simple Habits for Marital Happiness. We do recommend you get a copy of this book. As Jim said earlier, it's a counseling session, all contained in a book. It'll really be beneficial to
Multiple
you. Multiple
counseling
sessions, yes. It'll be really beneficial to you and or somebody you know. So get a copy of it from us here at Focus on the Family. Click the link in the show notes or call 800, the letter A, and the word family.
Randy, that odd or even, what jumped in my mind is Jean and I in the airport, and she accidentally drops the suitcase on my toe, and I got to first think, okay, this is an even day. Oh, love, why would you have dropped that on my toe? And if it's an odd day, what are you doing dropping that on my toe?
Now, we always have to watch our tone of voice and body language, Jim.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it. But you're correct. That even odd guideline is not a rigid rule. Something big comes up.
Right.
But it does help couples have 50% of their life positive.
No, it's good. It's good. And it's good to remember. Be practical. But I love that. At least it contains that negative emotion. Let's move in that direction, cover habits that we need to avoid. Let's start with a hard one, which is sarcasm. I mean, it kind of goes to my personality.
Guilty.
Yeah, you too?
Yes.
Okay, you got two clients here. Here we go.
I like your sense of humor.
Okay.
Yeah, we all can be sarcastic. And yet, sadly, 90% of our sarcasm is usually negative. And so the Greek word for sarcasm is tearing of flesh.
Can you give us an example in a counseling session that you remember where, let's work with husbands. I mean, the husbands seem to be very good at sarcasm. What did it sound like? Just so people catch it.
Well, you cook all the time, and she really doesn't cook all the time. So it's kind of hidden anger. I'm gonna jab you, and then I'm saying, well, I'm just teasing.
Right.
I didn't really mean it. And that's what happens with sarcasm. It devalues the spouse. It puts them down, and then the other spouse will say, well, you just can't take a joke.
It's deflating to the other person, even if you do it with humor.
It is. And I saw a couple had a son who had very low self-worth, lacked motivation, struggling in school, struggling making friendships. And often probably 100% of the time, when I counsel children, I ask parents, are you sarcastic with your kids? And almost 100% of the time they say yes. And I say, from this day forward, never ever be sarcastic with your kids again, and never be sarcastic with yourselves in your marriage. In fact, they were struggling in their marriage. They had a troubled relationship. And I remember they saying, well, Dr. Schrader, we won't be sarcastic with our son since you asked for that, but that's the way we relate to each other. We kind of jab each other. And I said, well, will you please not do that? Well, they stopped their sarcasm with their son, and what happened? He became motivated, developed self-confidence, did better at school, and just turned it around. There were other ideas as well that I gave them, parenting simple yet very effective habits, but they continued to do that in their marriage relationship. And did their marriage and relationship continue to struggle? Yes, it did.
Interesting.
They didn't give up the sarcasm.
It.
No, they didn't apply it to themselves in their marriage.
I think Jean really helped me one time. This is a long time ago in our marriage, but I could throw the funny dig. And I just remember her saying to me, that really doesn't help me. And it stuck with me, like I thought it was funny. And I don't think, particularly for guys, I don't think a lot of guys know that it hurts.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it sounds bizarre that we wouldn't realize that, but we thought that was a 10 on the laugh meter, right? And we think that's the achievement. And then when your wife pulls you aside and says, please don't do that in public. It really demeans me. You go, what? I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, no, it's an emotional slap, kind of an emotional whack to a spouse. Now, can there be healthy sarcasm? Sure, 10% of the time. But most of the time, the three of us and everyone needs to just watch out with that sarcasm because it can really destroy a relationship.
Or put it on yourself. It's always a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Point the sarcasm at your own actions. Under that avoiding the bad habits banner, we got this relatively new thing called technology. And you have to manage that in your marital relationship because when Gene and I go out to dinner, we look across the restaurant at different couples and they both got their phones out. They're not really talking to each other. They're just looking at their phones. So what are some good habits in the technology area and what are the bad habits to avoid?
Great question. And I think couples need to do what I call quiet connects. And I actually have that in Simple Habits for Marital Happiness. And I got that from a couple that I saw in counseling. They, several years ago, quite a few years ago, we had the power go out in almost our whole town. And this couple that I was counseling said what they did when the power went out, it was late in the afternoon, is they lit candles and sat in the living room and they talked for several hours about their fun memories of when they were dating, about some of the fun things they did on various vacations, about what vacations they want to do in the future. And after doing that, they came in and they said, Dr. Schroeder, we're going to do that once a week. Have no technology, cell phone in the other room, tablets in the other room, TV off, and we're just going to sit there and look into each other's eyes and talk about fun things that happened during the day and fun things we're looking forward to doing and just have coffee, casual conversation. And so from that, I started suggesting to all couples, let's have quiet connects. And I think we can do that also in the car. Rather than listen to music or listen to a podcast and not talk to one another, my wife and I turn the radio off, and I suggest to all couples, turn the radio off and talk to each other. Now, you can't look each other in the eyes, but you can still emotionally connect through that building up conversation.
Yeah, relationship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Randy, let's cover a couple of other elements right at the end here. Memory matching. I found that to be kind of interesting. What is it, and how do you caution couples with it?
Well, I say avoid the two M words. And so one, like you said, Jim, is memory matching. Our memories are always excellent and always the truth from our perspective. And so I've seen it over and over, heard a lot of marriage relationships, and I'm forever saying it when I counsel couples, is couples will say, this is what you said. No, this is what you said. No, this is what you did.
It's kind of the contest.
Yeah, it's a contest, and when couples learn to say, we're not going to memory match, our memories are excellent from our perspective, we're just going to adopt the phrase, no memory matching. That is one step toward a more successful, happy marriage. And second, you want to avoid mind reading.
All in favor? Aye.
Psychologists, counselors are trained to read minds. Nobody can read minds. And it can be very frustrating. Like I mentioned earlier, I've known my wife almost a half a century. We know each other pretty well. But if we read each other's minds and we're right, that can be kind of annoying. And so it's better to ask, what are you thinking?
But you're still right. That's funny.
And it can just lead to heartache. Yeah. And the other thing, we can be wrong. And that can really be frustrating if we thought we had our spouse's mind read and it was wrong. I saw a couple, we need to make our expectations known. But I saw a couple whose husband was on a business trip, and his wife went through a distressing event back home. She called him up. He was compassionate, did a terrific job. I asked him what he did. He listened. He was empathetic, sympathetic. And he asked his wife, he said, do you want me to cancel the business meetings right now and drive home? I'll do it. And she said, no. She said, I have the support of family. She said, you can just stay and then come home when your business meetings are done. When he got home, she had taken out a 6-month lease on an apartment and moved out of the house. And even though she did not ask him to come home, she said, "You should have read my mind that I really wanted you to come home."
Wow.
And he came to 3 sessions by himself. And I talked about the importance of expectations, making your expectations known. She had simple habits for effective or for marital happiness, and she thought the idea of expectations was dumb. She said, "I should not have to make my expectations known." And I've seen other spouses that said that too. If we're close, you should read my mind.
Yeah.
And that is, mind reading is a no-no. It will hurt a marriage. Yeah.
For sure. On behalf of all men, can I plead with women not to expect their husbands to read their minds? It'll make your life so much better. Just tell us what you're thinking, and that helps us tremendously. Randy, this has been so good. And again, I could see how, you have packed so much into the book. And really as a goal of taking everything you've learned in your counseling sessions and with great examples, some tough ones from couples that were struggling, but laying them in there so we could read them and see how to not repeat those mistakes. What a wonderful book, Simple Habits for Marital Happiness. And, one way to start that assessment is to come to Focus on the Family's website. John will give those details in a minute. But we have a wonderful marriage assessment there. I think we've had over 1 million people take it. And it just takes 6-7 minutes to go through the assessment. It'll tell you where you're doing really well and some areas you need to work on. And in addition to that, obviously covering the material today, Randy's great book, we can make that available to you. If you can make a gift of any amount, we'll say thank you by sending you a copy of Randy's book. If you could do that monthly, that's great. A one-time gift is fine. If you can't afford it, we want to get it into your hands. We're a Christian ministry. We're going to trust there will be other people recognizing that and helping us help you by supporting the ministry. So whatever your situation, we want to get this great resource into your hands.
Yeah, donate as you can to the work of Focus on the Family and request Randy's book, Simple Habits for Marital Happiness. The link is in the show notes, or our number is 800, the letter A, and the word family.
Randy, thanks again for being with us. Always good to have you here.
Thanks for having me back, and I pray that couples will have stronger relationships.
And on behalf of Jim Daly and the entire team, I'm John Fuller, inviting you back next time as we continue the conversation and once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.